A human life leaves two trails, the one we walk with our feet and the one we leave with our thumbs. It is a trail of digital breadcrumbs, GPS pings, cell tower handshakes, social media posts, and late-night text messages. It tells a story of where we are, what we're thinking, and who we are with. But what happens when that trail, the only thing lighting the darkness, suddenly goes cold? In 2019, 18-year-old Theo Hayez vanished from one of Australia's most famous coastal towns. He left behind his passport, his luggage, and all his plans for the future. The only things he took with him were the clothes on his back and a mobile phone. That phone would log his every step on an illogical, impossible journey, right up until the moment it stopped. This is not just a story of a missing person. It is the story of a digital ghost, a family's agonizing search for answers, and a mystery where the two most likely scenarios are both equally unbelievable. Theo Hayez was born on September 29, 2000 in Belgium. Growing up in the Brussels region, he was the eldest son of Laurent Hayez and Vincent Delforge, and a loving older brother to Lucas. He shared an especially powerful bond with his cousin, Lisa Hayez, who would later say they grew up more like brother and sister than cousins. By all accounts, Theo was the furthest thing from a reckless teenager. He was intelligent, hardworking, and curious. Friends and family described him as having a type A personality, methodical, analytical, cautious, and highly organized. He was not a heavy drinker. He was not a drug user. He was not a risk taker. This was a young man with a clear future. He had just completed high school and was set to begin a university degree in engineering in September 2019. In late November 2018, he embarked on an 8-month working holiday in Australia, a final adventure before settling into his studies. This trip to Australia was a gap year he'd been apprehensive about, worried it would delay his engineering studies. But he'd fallen in love with the country, traveling from Tasmania to Uluru, Kakadu to Cairns, describing it as some of the best moments of his life. He was an experienced traveler, having worked at the Australian Open in Melbourne with his cousin Lisa before making his way up the East Coast. He was independent, capable, and in constant contact with his family back home. On May 29, 2019, Theo arrived in Byron Bay, New South Wales. It was meant to be the final stop on his long journey. He checked into the Wake Up hostel, paying up front for his stay until Monday, June 3rd. From there, his plan was simple: take a Greyhound bus back to Sydney, fly to Melbourne, and then catch his flight home to Brussels in mid-June. He was excited to return, excited to see his friends and family, and excited to start his degree. Theo Hayez had every reason to be found. He had no reason to disappear. Theo's final day began unremarkably. At 6 p.m., he attended a barbecue on the back terrace of the hostel. It was there he met a fellow Belgian backpacker, Antoine van Letham. The two bonded over their shared hometown of Brussels. Antoine would later testify that Theo struck me as someone who is open-minded and can speak easily to people, and noted he was pretty excited to go back home. Around 7:30 p.m., Theo and Antoine went into town. CCTV from the Great Northern Hotel's bottle shop captures them at 7:44 p.m. Theo is wearing what he will be last seen in: a gray cap, a black hooded jumper, tan pants, and black shoes. They buy a 2-liter cask of rose for $11. They returned to the hostel and shared the wine. Antoine estimated they each had about 3 glasses, testifying they didn't like the taste. Witnesses were clear. Theo did not appear drunk. Later, the group took a shuttle bus to the Cheeky Monkeys nightclub on Johnson Street, arriving around 9:35 p.m.
This is the group arriving. Theo's walking next to Sander at this point. You're going to see in a moment Sander's sort of hopping around, and we think that's because it was quite cold and because of the wind. It might be his phone. And then there's just a stumble. So this point here, Your Honour, where Theo's standing on the main table and he's dancing, different people see different things in this footage. Some of the investigating police see signs that Theo is intoxicated or affected by alcohol and is sort of swaying. Others have looked at this footage and said, well, that looks like someone dancing. So that's going... Your Honour would see that he just clipped the corner as he's going around the corner, and again, some have suggested that might be signs of intoxication. Others say, well, it's a dark bar. So this is the security guard taking Theo outside at the top. He's being asked to stand on the cross to have his photo taken because he's being ejected. And Your Honour can see there he's talking to a man in the queue and using hand expressions like, I don't know what's going on. Police have spoken to that man. We understand he's being told there that he's being ejected and he can't come back.
Inside, Theo socialized and danced. Bank records show he purchased just 2 beers over the next hour. At 10:55 p.m., he went to the bathroom. As he returned, he was stopped by security guard Shannon Mackey. Mackey would later testify that he believed Theo was approaching intoxication, noting he was swaying a little bit. Theo, described by the guard as compliant, quiet, and showing no signs of aggression, was escorted out the side door and told not to return. This single decision was the inciting incident. Under New South Wales law, his ejection meant he was banned from all other licensed venues in town for the night. More importantly, he was separated from his new friends, with no chance to tell them he was leaving. This is the last confirmed visual sighting of Theo Hayez. His friends, still inside the club, had no idea he was gone. On Monday, June 3rd, Theo missed his checkout. He missed his Greyhound bus to Sydney. The hostel didn't report him missing. In a town like Byron Bay, it wasn't unusual for backpackers to change their plans. But in Belgium, his family was growing frantic. Theo's constant, reliable stream of messages had gone silent. When he failed to meet a friend in Melbourne as planned, his family and the hostel staff both contacted police on the same day. It had now been 6 full days since he was last seen. The search for Theo Hayez was about to begin. The response was immediate and massive. Officers from the Tweed Byron Police District, assisted by the Homicide Squad, launched Strike Force Mulgrey. They deployed every resource: land, air, and sea searches. Police dogs, rescue climbers, divers, and drones with thermal imaging scoured the town, the beaches, and the treacherous headland. Alongside them, the Byron Bay community mobilized an unprecedented volunteer effort, with hundreds of locals giving up their time to search for the missing boy. But they were searching in the dark, with no idea where to even begin. The breakthrough came not from a police lab, but from Theo's family. On June 16th, Theo's half-brother, Michael Dorcom, has an ingenious idea. He realizes Theo's Google account is linked to his Hotmail, not Gmail. He logs in, and what they find changes everything. It's Theo's Google timeline data, a detailed, minute-by-minute GPS log of his last known hour. And it makes no sense. The data shows that after leaving the bar at 11:03 p.m., Theo did not walk toward his hostel. He walked the opposite way, into a dark residential area. He searched for directions to his hostel 8 times, but he ignored them. At 11:14 p.m., he arrives at the Byron Bay recreational grounds, and he stops. For 7 minutes, his phone pauses at the dark, deserted cricket nets. Data shows him zooming in and out on Google Maps. Was he waiting? Was he hiding? At 11:21 p.m., he moves again. He walks to the entrance of the Milne Track, a bush trail through Arakwal National Park. Police would later describe this track at night as scary and intimidating. His cousin Lisa, after walking it herself, was adamant. Theo would never have gone in there alone. He follows the track, but then he deviates. He turns off the path onto a fire trail and then pushes directly through dense, thick bush. At 11:48 p.m., he emerges onto Tallow Beach. He walks north toward the cliffs. At 11:56 p.m., he does something else strange. He leaves the beach and walks up a steep incline into rugged bushland for 8 minutes before returning to the sand. This route, so complex and counterintuitive, became the central pillar of the foul play theory. That Theo was not alone. That someone with local knowledge was guiding him or forcing him along this path. But Theo's digital trail reveals another baffling contradiction. Once at Cozy Corner, his behavior suggests he feels completely safe. He's on his phone, watching clips from a French quiz show. He's messaging friends and family. He jokes with a friend about a U2 concert. At 12:55 a.m., he messages his stepsister. At 12:56 a.m., he sends his final communication, a reply to Loic Spies, who had asked if Byron Bay was a surfer's paradise. Theo's reply, "Ways grave," a colloquial French expression. Yeah, totally. It would be the last message he ever sent. 6 minutes later, at exactly 1:02 a.m., everything changes. Theo's phone stops receiving data from the Telstra towers. It is either switched off, put into flight mode, damaged, or out of range. But telecommunications expert Professor Aruna Senaviran analyzed the other data, the phone's automatic handshakes with cell towers. His analysis, which he repeated 10 times, showed with a high degree of confidence that between midnight and 1:02 a.m., Theo's phone was not on the beach. It was moving up from Cozy Corner onto the headland in the direction of the lighthouse. This formed the basis of the police's working theory: death by misadventure. That Theo, for some unknown reason, tried to climb the dangerous cliffs in the dark, slipped, and fell into the ocean. But Theo's family rejected this. He was cautious. He wasn't a risk taker. Why would he attempt such a climb alone in the dark? And the phone had one last, crucial secret. If Theo had fallen into the ocean, his phone would have been destroyed. At 6:17 a.m., Theo's phone started receiving data again. It continued to ping towers intermittently for the next 7 hours. This proved the phone had not gone into the water at 1:02 a.m. It had survived, likely on land, for more than 12 hours after Theo vanished. On July 7, 2019, more than 5 weeks after Theo disappeared, volunteer searchers found his gray cap. It was in bushland along the Milne Track, the impossible route he had walked. DNA testing on 2 hairs found inside pointed to a family link. It confirmed Theo was there, but it was just one more piece of a puzzle that refused to come together. The phone, the single most important piece of evidence, has never been found. With no suspects and no body, the case proceeded to a coronial inquest, held in 2021 and 2022 before NSW State Coroner Teresa O'Sullivan. The inquest's purpose was not to assign blame, but to formally examine the 2 competing theories. Was Theo Hayez the victim of a tragic accident or of foul play? The court scrutinized the moment his night was derailed. Security guard Shannon Mackey testified he ejected Theo for approaching intoxication. But when counsel assisting the coroner showed him the bar's own CCTV footage, Mackey was forced to agree. There were no clear, visible signs that Theo was actually intoxicated. As the guards testified about their duty of care procedures, Theo's father, Laurent, overcome with frustration, shook his head and stormed out of the courtroom. Professor Senaviran presented his findings supporting the misadventure theory. The phone was not at Cozy Corner by 1:02 a.m. It was on the headland. But Theo's cousin Lisa presented her own evidence, supporting the foul play theory. The Milne Track was simply not a route a stranger would or could take alone at night. The most powerful testimony came from Theo's family. His mother, Vinciane Delforge, described the unbearable uncertainty of her son's fate. "A part of me departed with Theo," she said. "Just surviving is a challenge." Her words, and those of Theo's father and grandmother, moved the state coroner herself to tears, forcing a brief adjournment. On October 21, 2022, after more than 3 years, Coroner O'Sullivan delivered her findings. She formally found that Theo Hayez was deceased, likely dying on or shortly after June 1st, 2019, in or around Byron Bay. She explicitly ruled out suicide, stating it was highly unlikely, and that all evidence showed Theo was forward-looking and excited about his future. But on the central question, she was trapped by the same contradictions that had plagued the case from day one. She found it difficult to accept he ended up at cozy corner of his own volition. And yet, she noted the random murder of a backpacker would be unprecedented, and there was no evidence of foul play. Her final, heartbreaking conclusion. Sadly, there is just insufficient evidence before me to substantiate or exclude either theory. The cause and manner of Theo Hayez' death could not be determined. The case remained open, a mystery unsolved. Outside the court, Theo's godfather, Jean-Philippe Pector, spoke for the family. "We're still hanging there somewhere," he said, hoping that at some point in the future there will be something. Theo's mother calls it ambiguous anguish. A life suspended between hope and grief, unable to move forward, unable to mourn. The Byron Bay community that had searched so tirelessly was also recognized. The 80-person volunteer team received the 2020 New South Wales Volunteer Team Award for their extraordinary 15-month effort. And Theo's case did leave one tangible, critical legacy. The inquest had exposed a massive flaw in Australian law, the Telecommunications Act of 1997. It required police to prove a threat was serious and imminent before they could request urgent phone triangulation data. In a missing persons case, imminent is often impossible to prove. On November 9, 2022, less than 3 weeks after the inquest's findings, the Australian Parliament amended the Act. The imminent requirement was removed. It was a critical change that could save lives, but it came too late for Theo. Today, the $500,000 reward for information remains unclaimed. Strikeforce Mulgray remains open, waiting for a new lead that could finally explain the inexplicable. What happened at 1:02 a.m. on June 1st, 2019? Did a cautious young man, not drunk and not a risk-taker, make a fatal, out-of-character decision to climb a dark cliff? Or did he, in the isolated cricket nets or on the dark Milne track, meet someone who led him to his death and then vanished, taking their secret and Theo's phone with them? The answers may still be hidden in the dense bushland of Byron Bay, or in the pocket of someone who knows more than they've said. But for now, the digital ghost trail simply stops, leaving Theo Hayez' family and a community that adopted him as their own, with only questions and the unbearable silence of an answer that never came. Thanks for watching. Take care, and see you next time.